find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
What time is it? Let me check my watch. Oh, it's bone o'clock. In olden days, a glimpse of femur was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Hello and welcome to Anything Bones. I'm Sophie Scapula Schwartz.
And I'm Katelyn Needlepoint Heart. I don't know what that was.
It's a hobby you may one day have.
Yeah, but I think somewhere in my mind I was thinking that needlepoint and knitting, I was trying to do an alliteration and it just didn't work. Hi everyone, welcome to Anything Bones, the podcast where we talk about bones and bone-related topics. Welcome.
Have a seat. Rest those old bones of yours by the fire we've made. Would you like some stew? It also has bones in it.
Yeah, it's beef marrow stew.
Mm-hmm. Here, a nice blanket that I put over your legs. Let me tuck you in. We're going to tell you some bone stories. Is that okay?
Yeah, I hope that's okay. Or you can stop now if it's not.
You can get the fuck out of this inn if it's not. This inn
now that
is
those
for people.
Losers are gone.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. If you're going to stay at the fucking Bone Marrow Inn, you got to be ready to hear some bone stories. If you want some nice fairy tales, you can go stay at the Baby Bitch Boy Inn down the road.
Yeah, Baby Bitch Boy Inn has so much vacancy, it's disgusting.
Literally no one is staying there, so you can have the fuckboy suite.
The fuckboy suite. What does that look like? Like the mini fridge is just stocked with Monster energy drinks?
Yeah, the bed is shaped like a can of Bang. There's just bags of Doritos, oversized bags of Doritos on the pillows.
And like tamales, like frozen tamales everywhere.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And just plates of rice and plain chicken.
Yep, that's it. Do you have any salt and pepper? No.
Nope.
No, I do not.
Nope, not in the fuckboy suite. You can season your rice with Bang.
Yep, tastes better that way.
Mm-hmm. Give you some energy, too, for all the dunking you'll be doing later.
Oh, no. There. So many people come into the fuckboy suite, but
don't come out?
But they don't get, oh god.
Do they get murdered in there, Caitlin?
That's my topic today. The fuckboy suite of 2021.
The fuckboy suite murders are maybe one of the most, untouched, unsolved cases of our time, the spoiled cans of Bang, the bloody snapback. We all remember the broken, home-burned CD covered in blood, burned in our minds.
Seared in our memories forever. No, I'm actually, for today's topic, I'm taking it all the way back to the early 1900s.
Oh, hell yeah. Let me
it's
get
not
my
all the way, but
horse.
It's a little bit of the way.
Yeah.
My sources for this were historypress.com, historytoday.com,
Ooh.
and bbc.com.
Hey, I used that one too this week.
Hey, wow. So they're popular.
I mean, they're reputable.
That's true. That's good. That's good on us. So I'm going to take you back a little bit before to when Holly Harvey Crippen and Cora Turner get married in Jersey City in 1893. So they're this young married couple. He is like a homeopathic medicine person.
Okay.
So I kind of imagine a little bit of a snake oil salesman.
I imagine he has a coat and he opens it up and it has a lot of little bottles on the inside of the coat, and he has shifty eyes.
Yeah, he has a big mustache too, like literally has a huge mustache.
We love a big mustache.
So his wife, Cora, She's actually using the stage name Belle Elmore because she wants to be like a famous opera singer, or as this source puts it, a music hall artist.
Ooh, I like that. A little bit of rebranding.
Yeah, wow. So she's just like she wants to be famous. She's trying to make it big. So they get married in 1893 in Jersey City in America. And then 7 years later, they moved to London. Unfortunately for Belle, so Belle and Cora are the same person, just FYI, because Cora is her name. Or, well, she actually has another name. Her real name is, oh God, I'm going to butcher it. Kunigunde Bakamotsky. She is the daughter of a Russian-Polish father and a German mother. And so this is Cora, aka Belle. Belle is her preferred, like, stage name.
Okay. So
she wants to be famous.
She pared it down a little bit. That's understandable, I guess.
Yeah. Her original name is a little bit of a mouthful.
Well, you do what you gotta do to make it in the industry, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, according to all of my sources, she was a terrible singer.
Oh, that's the pits, man. When you have the, like, calling and you really want to do it and you want to, like, shape your life around it, but it's, like, you're just not gifted in that way. Oh, Cora, sorry, babe.
Yeah, so apparently she was described as also, quote, overbearing and dominant. Quote, a most overbearing and dominant character.
Wow. Well, sure, I guess. I don't know her myself, but sounds like a man said it.
Probably a man said it, so I take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I was literally thinking, I was like, well, that's written by a man, so I don't know. Unless she's the fucking murderer.
Hold on. So, they're in London. He's doing his thing with homeopathic medicine. He's supporting her with her dreams at opera, music hall, but it's just not working out.
Oh, sorry, babe.
What does happen is she gets a few, like, buddies in the business, and then she gets the position treasurer of the Music Hall Ladies Guild.
Okay, big shit.
I guess. I think she wants to be on the stage, but, you know, she's stage adjacent as the treasurer.
I mean, I think as we learned at old UPS, you know, you gotta be able to do all parts of the biz, bitch. You gotta be able to hang the lights, you gotta be able to make the costumes, do the singing, and then count the money.
Yeah, and then do the treasury stuff.
And then pay your taxes. That's what treasurer do, right?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I assume that's part of it. I don't know. I've never been a treasurer of anything.
I've never treasured anything.
Well, I don't know about that. I think I've treasured things before, but I don't think I've ever been a treasurer with the money stuff.
I treasure you, bitch.
Oh, yeah, you're the treasurer of my heart, but
Aww.
I don't know if you could put that on a resume.
I would.
All right, so we're in 1905, and Dr. Crippen and Belle get a place in Holloway, which I assume is part of London. Let me look it up really quick.
Look it up.
Oh yeah, it's part of London. It's like a neighborhood in London.
Nice.
So according to one of my sources, they wanted this house because it was big enough that they could have separate bedrooms.
Okay.
And apparently, according to this source, Belle had never been a sexual person. And according to this source, all intimacy between the married couple had stopped in 1907. But another one of my sources said that Belle and Dr. Crippen took in, like, lodgers, and that Dr. Crippen caught her in bed with one of the lodgers, and it wasn't the only time. So I'm like, okay, you're either a total prude or a whore in this story.
I mean, it's interesting because it's like an argument could be made that maybe like she was just like asexual and like was like just like uninterested in sex. But then like if there's like record of her having these type of affairs, it makes you go, well, maybe she just didn't like having sex with him.
Exactly. Like, who knows, honestly, because these different sources are telling a completely different story.
Also, it's been, 100 years?
Yeah. Can we figure this out, please? No, I don't need to know, actually. It's none of my business.
Yeah.
Anyway, regardless of Belle's situation, her husband, Dr. Crippen, falls in love with a typist at his job, and her name is Ethel Leneve.
Oh, Ethel.
Or Leneve. I don't know. Ethel. We're going with Ethel.
Oh, Ethel, what you got yourself into?
So, now jump to 1910. It is Monday, January 31st, and apparently Dr. Crippen and Belle threw a dinner party. The meal was apparently, fine, nothing to report, but at the end of the night, Belle was mad at Dr. Crippen that he didn't, escort their guest upstairs to the bathroom when he asked where the bathroom was. So they had this big fight. And this is just according to a source. I'm like, how would anybody, where are they getting that from? Is that just from Dr. Crippen later on saying this? I don't know.
Possible.
I take all of this with a grain of salt.
Sometimes people write shit in their diaries, though. They're like, I heard them arguing about, escorting us to the bathroom and whether or not you did that.
It's such a weird thing to get so mad about. It's like, there's a bathroom. They'll probably find it.
But what if they get lost, Caitlin? What if they get lost?
That doesn't mean you have to have a fight about it, a full-on fight.
I want to have a fight about it.
Okay, well. Unfortunately for Belle, this dinner party was the last time that anyone would see her alive.
No!
Yeah.
Fuck!
So people are... I know.
I was
people
kind of hoping
asking,
she would be the murderer.
No, she died.
No. Beans.
I know, sorry.
Okay.
I'm glad I could keep you guessing until the last second, though.
Yeah, you really did.
So people are asking, neighbors and other people are asking, where is Belle? And Dr. Crippen is like, oh, she went to America. And then he's like, oh, she's sick in America. And then, oh, she died in America. And everyone's like, I don't know if I totally believe you, because Ethel had moved into their house and was wearing Belle's jewelry and clothes.
Ethel. Dr. Crippen!
Yeah.
That stinks the high heaven to me.
Yeah, not exactly, copacetic. This isn't really on the up and up, let's just say.
No, it's, suspicious.
So, on July 8th, so remember, nobody has seen her since, February, end of January.
Mm-mm.
An inspector, Chief Inspector Walter Dew, goes over to check on the house, and he goes there and only Ethel is there. And she's like, oh, the doctor's at work, go ahead and visit him there. And so the Chief Inspector visits him at work, and they all go back to the house, and Dr. Crippen shows the Chief Inspector around. It's all fine and dandy. And Dr. Crippen is telling the cop that, Belle actually cheated on me and left me for another man. And I'm pretty sure they moved to America together. And Dr. Crippen, left it so that he was like, oh, so I'll have Belle contact you. And I'll do that by putting ads in the newspaper for her where she supposedly is. And so hopefully she'll see that newspaper ad and she'll contact you to confirm my amazing story.
This, to me, feels like the equivalent of when someone's blocked you on social media, so you post a status or something. Being like, Bethany, please call the private investigator. But Bethany is dead. Yeah.
So I guess the next day, Dr. Crippen shaves off his mustache, and then it's getting serious now.
Oh, we're in the shit.
And then his lover, Ethel, dresses up like a little boy, and they buy tickets to Canada to get there on a ship, and they pose as father and son.
Okay, that's fucking wild.
I know.
I mean, smart if it works, but, like, God, that's wild. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Ethel, you were just a secretary, and now look at you. You're a little
Yeah.
Victorian boy on your way on the run from the law.
You're on a boat.
Going to Canada. Have fun.
You're off to Canada. Okay, so they begin to make their grand escape, and around the same time, this same chief inspector comes back to the house because he can't get this fucking story out of his head, I guess. He is surprised when he can't find Dr. Crippen and he can't find Ethel, and I guess you could just walk into the house at this time because apparently he just goes inside and he finds some loose bricks on the floor, and he brings in more people and they dig around those bricks and they find something. And what do you think they find?
I'm gonna go on a crazy limb here and say they find a dead Bahoti.
They find part of a dead body, for sure.
What?
Quote! The body was headless, limbless, and boneless. Little more than pieces of flesh, but it was female. It was time to find Crippen.
Oh, was it time to find
It's time
Crippen?
now. Now it's time.
Is now the time to find Crippen? Because there's a very suspicious mustacheless man and Victorian boy standing in the back of the room who I would maybe look into.
I think you should maybe talk to them.
Oh no, they're getting away. That's crazy. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah. Had you ever heard of this? I'd never heard of this story before.
The thing about them posing as father and son rang some sort of deep bell, but I did not know about what'd you say? Headless, limbless, boneless.
That's what it says.
Yuck, gross, and no. Absolutely not. What the fuck is wrong with you, Crippen? Because I'm assuming this is Crippen's work. I'm not gonna put this on Ethel's shoulders unless you tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I don't think so either. We're gonna get into it. So, we're on this boat, right? With Daddy Dearest and Ethel disguised as...
Sweet little boy! I'm imagining in my head she's a full-grown woman, with little suspenders and tiny shorts, being like, "Hey, Papa, we're going to Canada."
I sure wish that there was a picture of this because clearly, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Let me spoil it for you.
Oh no!
The passengers of the crew are like, "What the hell is wrong with these people?" They are quote, unduly affectionate and were constantly holding hands.
Ew,
Added
guys.
to that, the boys' clothing seemed to be very ill-fitting.
Boom!
So the captain of the ship, Captain Kendall, sends a telegraph to Scotland Yard, which this chief inspector figures out, okay, a father and son acting affectionate towards each other, kind of weird. They're trying to get away. It's probably my guy and Ethel.
That is a wild pull, though. You gotta be pretty confident in that one to be like,
yeah,
hey, I think you guys are escaping murders, not a father and son on the way to Canada for... Although, guys, if you're gonna dress up as father and son, don't be holding hands and kissing each other. Come on now.
You kind of need to keep it together for a little bit in public.
Yeah, the PDA, even as a normal couple, I would prefer you don't.
I would just prefer if you didn't, skin a woman and then board a ship and try to start your new life in fucking Canada.
I mean, that's what we would all prefer, but that's not what they did.
So, Dr. Crippen is apparently the first person to be caught because of a telegraph.
Oh, that's fun!
Yeah, I think that was according to the BBC, which was just kind of a fun detail.
I love that.
Yeah. So we're at July 31st, and officers board the ship. It docks in St. Lawrence. I'm not sure where that is exactly. They are identified arrested, and then they are escorted back to London for their trials. So they decided not to try the two of them together. They wanted Dr. Crippen to have his trial first, and then they were going to try Ethel as an accomplice, I guess, like later. So from October 18th to October 22nd, I guess that would be, what year is it? We're still in the same year, so it's 1910. We're nearing the end of 1910, and this is the dates of his trial. They had a pretty good case against Dr. Crippen, right? Like,
they did. They had quite a good case. He did some kind of suspicious things.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. The defense strategy was that the body in the cellar was just not Belle. He's like, oh, she must have just been there before we even moved in, so it's definitely not my fault.
No.
So at the time, they found one piece of flesh had a scar on it, and it kind of matched up with a scar that Belle had. But some of the remains were wrapped in some kind of jacket, and there was a tag inside the jacket that like confirmed when the item was manufactured, and it was manufactured in 1908. So they moved in before that. So it obviously wasn't right. It couldn't have been somebody there before they moved in.
No, because how would you get a garment made?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tests done on the flesh showed that she was poisoned with something called hyoscine, and that was something that Dr. Crippen had apparently purchased some of 2 weeks before she disappeared. And so it took 30 minutes for Dr. Crippen to be found guilty of his wife's murder.
I mean, you've laid it out to me in probably as much time.
And Ethel is tried next as an accessory, and she's actually found not guilty.
Interesting.
So on November 23rd, 1910, Dr. Crippen was hung, and his last request was that he be buried with a photo of Ethel and some of their letters.
Aw, how romantic. This terrible monster of a human being.
Yes. There are some people who don't think he was a monster, I will tell you. There are some people who believe that he did not kill her, still to this day. Some of them are family members, so they might have a little bit of an axe to grind. I'm just saying, like, maybe. But, I mean, who really knows? I just think that it's pretty suspicious when your lover moves into your house, wears your wife's jewelry, and then nobody has seen your wife in years. Like, where did she go? Like, if he didn't kill her.
Yeah, and like, if you really wanted to look into it, there are manifests that you could check to see if she got on a boat anywhere. There's a lot of ways to check, and to me it just seems really suspicious. She is buried in his house, like she was his wife. He bought the fucking poison. He's a quote-unquote doctor.
And why would you run away if you didn't kill her? You know what I mean?
Yeah! That speaks, especially in disguise. You shave off. If you're not guilty, why'd you shave off your big old mustache, guy?
Yeah, why shave off the mustache?
An innocent man would leave his mustache on, yeah.
What do you have to hide under that mustache?
Yeah. See your stinky, filthy guilt that lives inside your mustache? It's where the guilt is stored.
So there is one scientist, he's a toxicologist named John Trestrail, and he doesn't think that the mutilation seems consistent with a poisoner. He says, quote, "A poisoner wants the death to appear natural so he can get a death certificate. This is the only case I know of where the victim was dismembered. It doesn't make sense." Which I guess he has a little bit of a point, but also, like, I think the goal of this criminal was just to get rid of his wife by any means necessary, so I'm not sure I buy it.
I mean, here's my fucking read on it, though. Like, yeah, he may have poisoned her, but, I mean, he probably dismembered her after she was dead, and he removed her head and her limbs, which are all distinguishing factors for a person. And So I think he was just hiding his crime. I don't know. I really think he did it. Like, all arrows point to him for me.
That's how I feel too, but I just want to point out, this was in the BBC article, so I think it's worth exploring and worth noting. So this toxicologist, Mr. Trestrail, he brought in the director of forensic science at Michigan State University. His name is Professor David Foran. They actually still had the piece of skin from the trial. And over 2 years, he was able to isolate some mitochondrial DNA. So they found a grandniece who should have had the same mitochondrial DNA as her. And then they showed that they were not related. The test also showed that there was a Y chromosome in the skin, which would mean that the skin was from a male.
I mean, that just means someone else was murdered.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. This is just one, the DNA is probably really, really degraded.
Yeah, it's old as hell.
It's old. Maybe it wasn't tracked proper. I don't know. It's
probably handled by so many men that, it's possible there could be a transfer on there. I don't know. I don't know shit about DNA testing. It's
tricky, and it's weird that evidence itself that Y chromosome didn't convince people. If experts around that are more connected to this case, obviously, than we are, we're not connected to this case at all. If they don't really buy it, then I'm not buying it. Also, in the BBC article, it talked about Jonathan Menges, or I'm probably not saying that right. He's a writer and a genealogist from San Diego, and he disputed these DNA findings. And he said, quote, "The genealogy linking the living relatives to Cora, aka Belle Crippen, is flawed. No birth certificate for her exists, for example, as they were rare in the US at the time, making the mitochondrial DNA tests irrelevant."
Yeah, I mean, it's hard when these things happen over 100 years ago.
Yeah, there's no way to know. It's just speculation at this point. The other thing is that this DNA finding that was so that contested this very old case, I guess, was revealed on a documentary and wasn't published or peer reviewed. So there's a little bit of an issue there. Yeah. So there are people basically that don't think that Dr. Crippen did this. I think I can speak for both of us, and it seems like most of the experts agree he probably did it. Most likely.
Most likely. It would be interesting if that body wasn't her. That would beg the question then, where did she go?
Where did she go? Who is that? Yeah, it just brings something up. But Dr. Crippen's actions were just so strange. It's you would not just up and leave everything with your girlfriend dressed as your son if you didn't have something to hide. That's just not normal behavior. And all of these claims and all the scientific testing, the case has never been reopened officially. So, we'll never know. But
I mean, like we always say on this podcast, the proof is in the mustache.
Exactly. Thank you. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, you've said it to me many times. You've looked me in the face and you've said, "Sophie, the proof is in the mustache."
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I've said, "Katelyn, you genius." Well, I think while we go find more mustachioed criminals to try for their crimes, do you want to listen to an ad break?
Yeah, you better play it for them.
Here we go.
Hey podcast lovers, my name is Haley and I run the Don't Identify podcast. I have been passionate about helping the unidentified get their names back ever since I found out I lived within miles of where Sherry Ann Jarvis, formerly known as the Walker County Jane Doe, was found. In my podcast, I tell the stories and provide information about unidentified people in hopes of reaching their loved ones and getting their names back. So come join me and help me advocate for these people. You never know, you could recognize someone's story.
All the mustache hair is on the floor, and all the criminals brought to justice. Which was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
That's how we do things here in the Law Zone.
The Law Zone! Well, we're going from the law zone. This whole episode is going to have a big old sepia tone on it, old-timey feel, because we're going back even farther.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. We are going to be going back to the 15 and 1600s, because we're going to be talking about Tycho Brahe.
Okay. No,
When you
I
hear
don't know
that
anything
name?
about this. It doesn't evoke anything for me.
Well, he is a man. He is a Danish astronomer who worked with astronomical instruments and measurements to figure out the position of stars. And he was born in 1546. And we're going to talk a little bit about his life. And of course, a little bit about his death.
Yeah, of course, of course.
But first, I would like to get out of the way one of the longest lists of sources that I've had in a while.
Oh boy.
So strap in. So we've got an article from Britannica. We have one from Scientific American, one from a Czech radio station, one from space.com, one from phys.org, one from Forbes, one from journals.plus.org, one from The Guardian, one from the Smithsonian, one from BBC, and one from Mental Floss.
Okay.
All right, back to Tycho Brahe. So, like I said, he's an astronomer. He's kicking around, like I said, in the late 1500s, early 1600s, and his observations were the most accurate possible before the invention of the telescope. And his whole thing was that he wanted to understand the solar system better and the positions of stars, and he ended up cataloging the accurate positions of more than 777 stars.
Damn, that's impressive.
It's super impressive. In the 1500s, it's extremely impressive.
Yeah, sorry, without a telescope?
Bitch did not have a telescope.
Yeah. Not for me, thanks.
Not for me. So he has an interesting life kind of from beginning to end. His father was a privy councillor and later the governor of the Castle of Heisenberg.
Oh my god, Breaking Bad.
Yeah. He is the one who knocks. But early in his life, Tycho was actually stolen by his childless uncle.
Shit.
Yeah! And his uncle just kind of came and swooped him and was like, I will take the boy and educate him.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and after a little bit, they just let him have the boy.
They were just like, oh, okay, I guess he's gonna get an education? What?
The uncle's gonna finance his education and, like, teach him how to be a nobleman. He put him in law school pretty immediately. But they just let him have the boy.
Just, okay.
This article said after an amount of parental shock. What does that mean? Does that mean the child was shocked? Does it mean the parents were shocked? Does it mean the uncle was shocked? Who was shocked with parental shock? I am, right now, hearing about it.
That is so vague, it hurts.
Yeah, but, I mean, like I said, he was a wealthy dude who was willing to pay for this boy's education and ended up sending him, when it was time, ended up sending him to study law at the University of Copenhagen in 1559 to 62. And during this time, there were several important natural events that influenced Tycho to be an astronomer, because he's on his way to be a lawyer right now. One of the things that kind of influenced him so heavily was a total eclipse of the heart. I mean, of the sun.
It's like, that is a song.
No, he ended up predicting on August 21st, 1560, there was going to be a solar eclipse. And he predicted it as a 14-year-old boy. And then he saw it happen. So, like, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, what? How? How, dude?
By just being super fascinated with the sky. I'm not exactly sure how he did, but he did. And people were pretty impressed by that. I would be. I am now.
I'm impressed by that.
I'm impressed right now, yeah. Another important event in his life occurred in August of 1563 when he made his first observation of what is called a conjunction, which is like overlapping planets. So he made an observation of Jupiter and Saturn overlapping, and that was pretty interesting because the tables, the astrological tables of the time did not predict this happening for a couple more days. So he was like, damn, I'm more accurate than the common understanding of the movements of planets.
Yeah, that's got to be a powerful feeling.
It's some big dick energy. And so he was like, okay, I think my goal is going to be that I'm going to create more accurate charts and maps of the sky and the stars and the planets. Because obviously, I kick ass at it. Okay, so those two events were what led him to be an astronomer. Because he was like, I kick ass at it, and everyone else is wrong. Literally. So from here on, he starts working on more astronomy stuff, but he also starts living his buck wild life because he is soon to be a great astronomer and an infamous party boy.
Yes.
So on December 29th of 1566, he's 20 years old by this time. Tycho ends up getting into a fight with his cousin. They're drunk and they're at an engagement party of a mutual friend. And they're like, hey, I'm a better mathematician. And the other one's like, no, I'm a better mathematician.
Ugh, boys, please.
Please, you both suck at math. But so this gets them, they come to blows about this. And they're like, we're going to have a duel about this. Boys,
you have to stop with the duels.
We love a good duel. So they end up having a duel about it. Tycho loses a large chunk of his nose during the duel.
Yikes. That can't be good.
No, it's not great. But he ends up getting it replaced with, what's rumored to be a gold or silver prosthetic. And he actually ends up bearing the hatchet with his cousin, and, they become buddies again.
Okay, I'm glad nobody died in that duel.
No, nobody died.
Just his nose.
Just his nose, and probably a little bit of dignity.
Yeah.
Jumping forward a little bit, one of the things that he discovered that kind of shook society's understanding of the cosmos was that he discovered what was to him, quote unquote, a new star, which is kind of interesting to think about in this time in the 1500s. He saw this star that was brighter than Venus, and it wasn't where it was supposed to be. It was within the constellation Cassiopeia. And he was like, wow, look at this really bright star that just appeared. I really don't know. I kind of don't know what's going on with it, but I'm observing it, and I think I might know what's going on with it. And this is interesting because it really, what he was actually observing was a supernova, which is the explosion and death of a star. And this was so bright that people could see it in the sky for, I think, a year.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, not cool, but kind of cool.
Super cool. Katelyn, it's very cool.
Okay, cool.
That you can see a supernova from Earth, that's very cool. With no telescope, remember?
Very cool.
Bare eye in it. So when he presented this to the world, people were kind of shook about it because Aristotle had this theory of the harmony of things, which depended a little bit on the stars and their positions being fixed and perfect. And the fact that he has discovered a new star or a new celestial body throws this theory off and really makes people question, well, if the heavens aren't perfect, what else is imperfect in this world? It's really a big step for science in questioning things that are meant to be concrete. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
And he ended up, lots of people were critical of his new finding of his observation and were trying to say that he was not correct, but he ended up shutting them down pretty good with a fun burn, which is that he said of them, quote, "Thickwits, oh blind watchers of the sky."
Oh, shit. Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Thrown down.
Got him. So after this time, he becomes very well known in Europe as an astronomer. I always want to say astrologer, but that's a totally different thing. He's a total Leo. But soon the king of what we now would think of as Sweden was like, hey, I'm going to support you and give you money to build your own observatory and do your nasty thing. And he's like, excellent. And after he has this level of funding, he builds his own observatory and starts living a life of excess. Because now he's a rich and successful astronomer. And he is kind of a not great guy. So he had a moose for a pet.
Oh, yeah, as you do.
As you do.
In Sweden, I guess. When in Sweden, have a moose.
I mean, the Nordic countries. But he had it so it would walk next to his carriage when he was riding around in the carriage. And he gave it beer. And the moose got like a taste for beer. And he would get his moose drunk. And the moose, it's rumored that the moose ended up beefing it because he wandered upstairs and was very drunk and then fell down the stairs.
Oh, God. That's why a moose should not be going up any stairs.
And why a moose should not be drunk.
No, I think we should all keep liquor and beer away from animals.
Yes. He also hired a person who had dwarfism to be his, like, jester, and, like, he made him, like, eat under the table.
Ew.
Yeah,
Boo.
It was, like, really not good. So, like, this guy was, like, making scientific strides, but on the inside he was, like, not a great person.
Yeah, the personality left something to be desired.
Exactly. So one night in October of 1601, our guy Tycho goes to a banquet. And he's hanging out at the banquet. He's having a lovely time. He's being very polite. He's not getting up. He's sat there and he's eating a lot. He's drinking a lot. And suddenly he gets like a terrible pain in his bladder. And like he waits it out because he's a man, ? And it ends up that he's got a terrible, like, bladder or kidney ailment, and he ends up dying 11 days later.
Oh, God.
Yeah. At the age of 54, yeah.
Oh, God.
So this is interesting because there was a kind of a widely accepted theory about his death that he died because he was at this banquet, and maybe he did this a lot, but he refused, because it was not polite, he refused to get up to use the bathroom.
Okay.
He would just sit there and let it kind of collect inside of him. And that gave him...
Hold on. He wouldn't pee? He didn't like to pee?
No, he wouldn't get up from, like, the table to pee.
But he also wouldn't pee his pants.
No, apparently not.
Oh my God. That's so bad. That is so bad for you. I've heard that before. That's terrible for you.
It is very bad for you. And so some people believe that perhaps his bladder ruptured or there was something going on with his kidneys because he was holding his pee. But he was in, like, excruciating pain when he died because when he got home, he tried to pee and he couldn't really pee. He could pee, like, a tiny bit. So, apparently he had missed the time for peeing. And he, like, you know, when he, allegedly while he was dying, he, like, gripped his, like, apprentice and was like, finish my charts. Like, don't let the charts be wrong still.
Oh, God. Oh, that's sad.
I mean, yes and no. It's rumored that he also wrote his own epitaph, which we love. It says, quote, "He lived like a sage and died like a fool."
Okay, yeah. And
which
he
is
wrote
pretty,
that.
and supposedly he wrote that, which is a pretty good self-burn.
Yeah.
He was buried in Prague's church, Our Lady Before Tyne, and ever since he died so suddenly, because he kind of, like, he left this banquet with, like, this terrible bladder pain, and then he beefed it, like, 10 days later. So people kind of were immediately suspicious, and people thought, well, Did he die of natural causes? Or was he murdered?
Oh, boy.
Ah, shit. In the past, people have thought, well, maybe he was poisoned. Because the onset of it was so quick.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people were pointing the finger at Johannes Kepler, who was his assistant/apprentice, because I guess he wanted to be a better astronomer. I don't know. It seemed like they had a good working relationship.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess that doesn't quite make sense. I don't know.
Another theory that has been presented a little bit more recently was that the astronomer was killed on the orders of the king because he was banging the king's mom.
Oh, God. Not where I thought you were going with that, but...
No.
Yikes.
Yikes indeed. So all these rumors have been swirling around about his death for a long time. So in 1901, to mark the 300th anniversary of his death, they actually opened his tomb up.
Oh, good. Okay. What'd they find in there?
Well, they ended up going in and taking some, hair samples and testing those samples of his hair and of his mustache.
Okay.
The mustache never lies. And so they were checking at this point for poisoning. And so they don't have the means really they test it in 1901 and don't get conclusive results, but then they test it in 1996 and they do get some unusually high levels of mercury.
Okay.
So that's interesting. So that really leads us a lot closer to murder, right?
I would think so.
But Brahe was also an alchemist, which is a form of proto-chemistry that was all about, of one things, is turning some elements into other elements, primarily trying to turn shit into gold. Lead into gold, I'm pretty sure. But mercury was used a lot in alchemical experiments, so he could have just been fucking with it for himself. Or was
maybe.
Yeah, it was also used as a medicine at the time.
Right, so it's not totally as suspicious as it is today.
Exactly. So a lot of people are left unsatisfied by this 1901 exhumation, right? So, people who are still holding on to it are archaeologist Jens Velev, and in 2010, he gets permission from the city of Prague authorities to exhume Tycho again.
All right, here we go. Round 2. 100 years later, let's go.
Let's get nasty. So basically what Jens's argument is that, quote, no measurement data or photographical details exist from that time, only physical descriptions of the skeletal remains. We can now supplement these with a number of analyses, so you could say that we are completing the investigation that was begun in 1901.
Love that. Little high five from the past.
Yeah, right? So on November 15th, 2010, they're like, okay, it's time. Jens and his team are going to drill a hole into the bricked up crypt that has Tycho's coffin in it. And they are inside of this coffin made of tin that's about 5 feet underground. Once they get the hole drilled, they're going to put down a remote-controlled camera that will be lowered down into the crypt to get kind of a visual on what's going on with the coffin. Then they're going to you got to get a visual, got to get a 20 on that. Then the coffin will be taken out of the crypt and then transported to a laboratory in Prague. So what they're hoping to do with this is that they want to gather samples. Again, they want to get better samples of that hair and that mustache.
Of course, you gotta.
Gotta get some fresh mustache off this guy. And bone as well, our favorite substance. They also want to do a number of tests, including CT scans and x-rays. And they think that these tests will also help them establish his intake of mercury in the last weeks of his life, because that's one of the things that's big in question, right? Was he mercury poisoned or wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
We get all this stuff in 2010. 2 years later, because these tests take a while, funding, this and that, red tape.
Yeah, I don't know. Test tubes are expensive. I don't know.
Yeah. A associate professor of chemistry at the University of Southern Denmark, Kare Lund Rasmussen, she has been conducting tests on these remains, and she says, quote, "We measured the concentration of mercury using 3 different quantitative chemical methods in our labs. All tests revealed the same result, that mercury concentrations were not significantly high to have caused death. In fact, chemical analysis of the bones indicate that Tycho Brahe was not exposed to an abnormally high mercury load in the last 5 to 10 years of his life."
Okay, so there's that.
So definitively, he was not poisoned with mercury.
Okay.
Another interesting thing that they found out in this second exhumation was, remember when we were talking about him getting part of his nose chopped off?
Uh-huh.
So they did chemical analysis. So the plate where his nose prosthetic would be was gone, but they did analyze the spot where it was at, and they figured out that that shit was not gold, that shit was not silver, it was brass.
Okay.
So someone was just spreading rumors that he was a fancier boy than he was. Another interesting thing that the exhumation ended up revealing was that there was a lot of gold on him. Not like pieces of jewelry. Yeah, traces of gold in his hair and all over his body, which was very weird.
That is weird.
Like little gold flecks.
Huh.
I don't know. They say that it could be perhaps due to his involvement with alchemy. He was, fucking around with gold. But Ramsuman's team analyzed the hair samples that they got from his scalp and his hair and his beard and his eyebrows, and they found that they all contained gold between 20 to 10 times higher than the normal person today.
So everybody's got a little bit of gold on them?
Apparently.
Okay.
You have a little bit of gold on you.
I like that sparkle and shine.
Yeah. So it was also disproven a while ago, the theory about the bladder bursting and all of that. That was also disproven. So we're kind of left with what did kill the man.
Please, I want to know.
A man with such a colorful life actually ended up dying in a kind of mundane way. It was a combination of unhealthy eating habits, diabetes, and alcoholism.
Well, shit. Okay.
Yeah. There was an article in the journal PLOS One, that's PLOS1, that is an academic journal, and it was written in 2018 by archaeologist Sasha Kaki, and they also did an analysis of the remains of Tycho Brahe in order to figure out his overall health and potential causes of his death. Because I guess when you're looking at a cause of death that's not so obvious as a knife through the chest or, being mercury poisoned, you have to look at the grand scope of a person's life. And one of the interesting things that they found out was that there was abundant evidence of bone changes, which were consistent with a condition known as diffuse isopathic skeletal hypertosis, or DISH. Let's dish.
Oh, God. Yeah. Let's dish about it.
So, here's the tea on the dish.
Oh, my God.
It's a systemic disorder. It often involves the fusion of 2 or more vertebrae, resulting in a candle wax-like appearance of extra bone growths on the fucking spine.
Oh.
He had parts of his spine were fused together, Caitlin.
Is that painful for people? It must be.
Yeah, it is painful for people.
That's gotta be bad.
Yeah, and it lessens their movement as well, as you would imagine. So, probably would not have killed him. It does have a 10 to 20% mortality rate when it is in conjunction with other complications, such as perhaps a poor diet, which our poor friend actually had. They did an analysis of his carbon and nitrogen isotope values from a fragment of his thigh bone, And that showed them that he ate a lot more meat and fish than the average person at the time. And this actually led to him being of a more unhealthy weight. Today, he would be categorized as obese. And so that probably was another complication that led to his death. Researchers learned that his symptoms in his final days included coma, urinary retention, which is all symptoms of hypersomnolar hyperglycemic state, which is common in people with type 2 diabetes. And symptoms of this can include dehydration, weakness, leg cramps, delirium, and an altered level of consciousness. One of the things that was recorded about him from his assistant was that he was very delirious in the last few days of his life. He kind of didn't know where he was and was a bit out of it. So this leads us to believe he possibly had type 2 diabetes. And finally, of course, it was well documented that he drank a fair amount.
Yeah.
And so, of course, alcoholism played a part in his death as well. From all of this, we can kind of put together that even though he lived a pretty colorful life, his death was things that people die quite easily of today, quite mundane and everyday things, except for the spine fused together, which I still stand by is pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just wanted to present this topic because I liked the mystery around his death. Did he die of a possibly exploding bladder? Was he murdered?
Yeah, and 2 exhumations.
And 2 exhumations. You know I love exhumations, and when there's 2, I can't get over it. So, in summation, it was really his lifestyle and his health brought him to his demise. And although it sounds a little disappointing, I would like to sum up. The man predicted eclipses, saw stars explode, had a drunk moose, a fused spine, a brass nose, and partied till he died.
Yeah, that's how he rolled.
And that is the life and death of Tycho Brahe.
Nice one. I didn't know him at all.
Well, now you do. He's a very interesting figure. He had a very strong influence on, objective science, but also he was terrible to people with dwarfism. Animals.
That was a bad situation.
Yeah, most definitely. But I just, the fused spine really got me.
Yeah. You'll have to look into that more, that condition, I guess.
I don't know, it just seems so painful.
Yeah, I wonder what that's like. I wonder what can be done about that now. Surgery or something.
Well, that brings us to the end of our bone stories for the night.
Yeah, I hope you're still comfortable tucked into your little blanket.
Here, do you want a cup of tea? I'll just put another log on the fire if you want to hang out for a little bit longer. If you've got the time, would you care to give our little inner review? Maybe 5 stars here on this bulletin board over here.
And you can also check out our website, which is homes4turkeys.com. Yeah, we love you guys. And stay safe out there. It's getting to be another wild time with COVID and war and planes falling out of the sky. It's going great. We're going to be okay, everybody.
I think we will be fine. Remember to treasure your bones and treasure your friends.
Yeah. And
Bon voyage.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter.
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
At Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe.
I'm glad I could keep you guessing until the last second, though.
Yeah, you really did.
Cool.
Don't sound too impressed with yourself.
No, sorry. Humble.
You are so humble.